The Nintendo Switch 2 has been one of the most controversial eras for Nintendo and for any gaming company, I think, ever. And a lot of that has to do with the games. The games that this console has, or maybe the games this console does not have. And today, the topic of today's video, I need to talk about, is this true? Is it true that the Nintendo Switch 2 does not have any big games, that it needs more big games, that there is a big game problem with the Nintendo Switch 2? Well, first of all, we need to look at what has already come. What is on the Nintendo Switch 2 right now? What can you go out there and buy on your Switch 2? Why would you want to pick it up? Well, first of all, there's Mario Kart World, right? That was the very first game for this console from Nintendo's first-party studios. Mario Kart World launched day and date with the Nintendo Switch 2 on June 5th for $500 with the bundle $80 all on its own. What was this game? This game was an evolution for the series. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was known for its arcadey style. It had perfect track design. It was gorgeous on all fronts. It added DLC to triple the size of the initial game on the Wii U at release and had a bunch of new characters also put into the game. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had a huge following. It is one of the best-selling games on the Nintendo Switch and on any console of all time. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is going to be a very hard game to top no matter what. No matter what Nintendo decided to do, it was going to be very difficult. So what did they do? They went back to their roots and they also decided, let's take the roots up a little bit. Let's dig them up and let's put some new ones in. So with the old style of Mario Kart, we had the 3-lap track, and that, I think, is the perfect style for Mario Kart. It's what we've known thus far. It is what most people like. This game added something a little bit different to cater to the new philosophy, the new design, the world, the big Mario Kart world. It was a big deal to see this game be as gorgeous as it was, as big as it was, and to have a world like it did. This game is very different than the other games in the series because of this world. Every single level, every single track, all of these 3-lap track places are on a big map. And you can go in free roam and go to every single one of these in a row without a single loading screen. That is a feat. Whether you like it or not, whether this is a tiring subject, open worlds, it is a feat. It is a truly big feat for Nintendo. This game did something different, and I think it was a good different for a little bit, but not for the long run. You see, after a big update came out for this game, we then lost access to 3-lap tracks on online because there was a guaranteed way to get 3-lap tracks. It was picking random. Every single time you would pick random online, you would get 3-lap tracks, and pretty much every single person was picking random to get more 3-lap tracks. Well, with this big world, with these big interconnected levels, all of the different tracks being connected on the map, there were different things taking you from place to place called intermissions. This was the main Grand Prix mode that you could not do 3-lap tracks back to back to back. You started at Mario Bros. Circuit. You would go on an intermission and you would head to the next track. Then you would do a lap there and then you would go to the next track. And then you would just do it over and over and over again. And that was the intermission style. That is the style that is also on the online. So if you want to play 3-lap tracks standard, they made it to where you just couldn't. You could not do that online unless you were to join some sort of random room with your friends and pick every single track you wanted to pick. This was no longer an option for you. This soured this game, along with its $80 price tag, so much to the point where we have totally and completely lost the plot. Outside of the pricing, which is a big deal, and outside of the intermissions, Mario Kart World is phenomenal. Let me say that again. Mario Kart World, outside of the pricing and outside of the intermission online debacle, is phenomenal. This game, gorgeous. First of all, the art style, the graphics, the animations, it is so lively. If you look at Mario, Luigi, Peach, all of these characters that we have come to know and love over the years, these characters are more vibrant and colorful and animated than ever. And that is truly what Mario is all about. He's about bringing joy and bringing emotion, and he does that better than ever in this game with a whole cast of characters, a bunch of playable NPCs of all things. They decided to take out the other Nintendo characters from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, like Link, like Splatoon, Inklings, like all these other people, and they were able to put in people like Cow, the cow from Moo Moo Meadows. You can now play as a cow in Mario Kart World. That is pretty awesome. You can play as a Cataquack. You can play as a Pianta. You can play as all these different NPCs that I would never have guessed in a million years you could ever play as. This is the kind of wackiness that Nintendo is continuing to display, and people are deciding to go blind to it. This is the kind of wackiness that people will compare to modern Nintendo Directs, to the old Nintendo Directs that had no content, had no games, and they'll say, look at that, but Reggie was stuffing his face with donuts. Come on. You could not play as a Cataquack when Reggie was stuffing his face with donuts, okay? Come back to the modern era. Let's take these hate-blind goggles off our faces and look at what is really in front of us. The wacky Nintendo that we know and love is still here. The developers are still hard at work producing games that are better than anyone else can ever dream to make. Mario Kart World is phenomenal. So the art style, the wackiness, what else about Mario Kart World? Oh, how about the gameplay? How about the fluid gameplay? Maybe the drifting is not as good as it was in Mario Kart 8, but most people aren't going to see that as a huge deal. Now, I personally would prefer the drifting system from Mario Kart 8, but most of the time, I'm not going to complain because this game was built for the ground up for this specific set of moves, for this very specific gameplay style. And so it matches the theme. And the tricks, oh my goodness, the trick system, the rail grinding system, it adds a whole nother level of depth and complexity to this game. If you want to play casually, if you want to play like you have always played, you can do that in Mario Kart World. If you want to master the moveset, the skill set, if you want to use all these different tricks and mechanics that Nintendo has given you, you can do that as well. You can master every single aspect of this game and have a blast doing it. You can totally lose yourself in this world. You can spend hundreds of hours in this game and still not know every single shortcut, not know every single path on every single track. It will take you a long time to get to that point, and that is the mark of a great game, in my opinion. A game that invites everyone to play and gives the people who want to play and don't know how a beginning floor, and also for the people who want to master it, a chance to truly master it, to be better than everyone else, and also have a fair time, have a fun time with people who don't know what they're doing, because the item system is as chaotic as ever and will let the worst player ever become in first place and you be in last because all of a sudden you got Mario Karted. That is the beauty of Mario Kart World. It is more chaotic than ever with its 24 racers, with its all big and unique gameplay features. This game is amazing. I could talk about that all day long. Mario Kart World is so much better than what people give it credit for, especially now with the new update. They updated the game to make it to where about 60-70% of the time, you're going to be getting Mario Kart World 3-lap tracks. So you're going to be getting these tracks that they designed so expertly more often online, and that is enough to save the game for me. I would prefer it to be all the time and not have to play any intermissions because they're just not that fun for me, but I don't mind taking a break every once in a while if 3-lap tracks are the main appetizer, the main entree, whatever you want to call it. These tracks are phenomenally designed, and they are meant to be played over and over and over again to find secrets. Mario Kart World is phenomenal, but what came a month later is probably even better. Donkey Kong Bonanza, the big 3D platformer that everyone was hoping for this year, was not a Mario game, but a Donkey Kong game. But Donkey Kong Bonanza is a masterpiece. This game is phenomenal. People loved this game. People were raving about it. It's a Game of the Year contender for sure. This is a game unlike any other 3D platformer because it's not just a 3D platformer, it is a 3D destroyer. You are playing as a wrecking ball in Donkey Kong. He is so strong, he is huge, and the environment is his to shape and destroy. Donkey Kong and Pauline, their dynamic is one of the best in the business. Nintendo has just given us two of the best characters and character dynamics I have ever seen in a game, and they barely even focus on the narrative, and yet what they do focus on is big enough and cool enough for me to be there day one and support it like no other Nintendo game. This game should be the blueprint for every single 3D platformer, for every single big Nintendo game in terms of story moving forward, because I care so much more about Pauline than I ever have about Princess Peach, because they never gave her any character. They never gave her any motivational substance to her. But Pauline has that. Pauline has that substance. This game is also gorgeous. The Nintendo Switch 2 is making full utilization of all of these pieces of software. Nintendo and their developers are starting to get good at this, and yet we've not even seen an original, built from the ground up Switch 2 game yet. Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, Pokemon Legends ZA, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, like all of these big games that we have gotten this year thus far and will get this year were initially developed with the Nintendo Switch in mind, or went ahead and released on the Nintendo Switch all by itself and with a Switch 2 edition. These games have not yet been realized in terms of their full potential. We have yet to see a game built from the ground up for this powerhouse of a console. That tells me that there is going to be even more gems to come. We've yet to see a game that was originally meant to be on this console. That is probably why a lot of people are complaining. Most of these games were supposed to come out at the tail end of the Switch's life and got moved over to the Switch 2. Now maybe they really shifted their plans around that and decided they wanted to give their bigger games and bigger studios more time to develop, and that's why we've not gotten a lot of big games. But these games are still pretty massive, and they are really expertly done on the Nintendo Switch 2. Donkey Kong Bonanza is a masterpiece, and we've already gotten 2 of those on the console thus far. Then we got a game called Drag X Drive. I won't spend a lot of time on it. It's not a big deal. It's like $20. It's fun for people who like that kind of game, but it wasn't appealing to me. I didn't even really care for it. I didn't get it. A lot of people didn't care for it either, but it was cheap enough to get a good amount of fun out of it, and you were able to use both Joy-Con too as a mouse on your lap, on your couch, wherever you were going to use it. That game was fine. We got Welcome Tour, which was $10, should have been a pack-in, but $10 is not that big of a deal. It's truly not. So then we got a bunch of Nintendo Switch 2 editions. We got Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, we got Super Mario Party Jamboree, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. We're getting more coming soon. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is coming on this console as a Switch 2 edition. We already are anticipating Metroid Prime 4, and we're getting Pokemon Legends ZA in their Switch 2 editions. Those games are not my favorite. They're old games. You can't really count them as new because, yes, they are new for the Switch 2 and they look a lot better. And for owners of those games like myself from the Switch era, it is really good to see these in 4K, to see these boosted up to modern hardware, and to just see them have a little bit more content. But most of them are just not all that good. I just made a video on Switch 2 editions, so go check that out whenever you can. But that will have my full thoughts on those. They're just not the best. I feel like of all the things that Nintendo has been getting hate for, Switch 2 editions are probably at the top of my list as a worthy cause for it. Then we're coming up on Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, a spin-off game, a warrior-style game, the third one in the Zelda series that we are getting now, a prequel to Tears of the Kingdom. This will be going through Zelda's story, what she was doing back in the day when she time traveled back to Rauru and Sonia's time. This game looks incredible, and I have broken down several of those games' trailers on this channel, so go check those out if you want to know more about those. But this game, I'm telling you, this story is going to be great. It's canonical. It's been confirmed several times. After Age of Calamity's debacle, with people not being very happy about that game not being canonical, about it kind of twisting off the path, it is probably going to be canonical to the core, to its very last detail. Tears of the Kingdom and Age of Imprisonment are going to be telling the same story. Now, what does this game have that makes it a big game? Well, technically it's a Zelda game, but it is still a spin-off game. I would personally count it as a big game, but the gameplay loop can be very repetitive, and these games don't tend to do super well. I think Age of Calamity sold somewhere between 5 and 7 million copies, which is a very, very good number. It's more than any Metroid game has ever sold, so it is big enough, but people are just upset to see it's a spin-off and not a regular Zelda game. But we still just got one last year with Echoes of Wisdom, and then it was just 2.5 years ago that we got Tears of the Kingdom, so I am not anticipating, nor should anyone be anticipating, a 3D Zelda game anytime soon, or a 2D Zelda game anytime soon. It will take at least another year or two for them to release, or at least tease another one. So this year, Zelda Age of Imprisonment, this game is going to be phenomenal. That warrior style can be repetitive, can be the type of game that people just don't really buy into, but I'm telling you, if you've never tried one before, jump into it. If you bought Tears of the Kingdom, if you bought Breath of the Wild, jump into this game. It is going to be a blast from start to finish, and you're going to get a ton of content out of it. I mean, a ton of content. And of course, we're getting Pokemon Legends ZA. That's not something that appeals to me. I'm not a huge Pokemon fan. I've never played a Pokemon game. They seem to be a pretty scummy company to me, and people will compare them and Nintendo a lot and act like Nintendo is Pokemon, but they're completely different entities, so I prefer not to talk about them as much. much. I am interested in the game loop. I like Pokemon as a concept, but the games have never drawn me in, so I just decided to skip it, and I probably am not picking this game up either. But if you're talking about big games, like objectively big games in terms of societal impact, in terms of sales numbers, Pokemon's probably at the top of the list. So if you're complaining about not having a big game, Pokemon's Legends ZA is that game for you. Now, I understand it is also coming on the Nintendo Switch, but if you really want that full experience, if you want the best graphical capabilities, if you want this game to look and run how it should from day one, you're gonna want to pick it up on the Switch 2, and it's still going to sell incredibly well. Moving on to Kirby Air Riders now. Kirby Air Riders is coming out in December, and we should be getting a new Nintendo Direct for that game anytime now. In the previous one, in September's Direct, Sakurai confirmed that there's going to be a second Direct on that game, and we already saw the first one. It showed off a lot of the basics and a little bit more content. I'm sure the second one will sell us even more on why there's more content in this game. I did not play the first Kirby Air Ride, and so I am interested to see more about it, because right now I'm not entirely sold. I'll probably buy it and review it for the channel, but I don't know if I was on my own, if I didn't have this channel, if I would even care about it. So we'll see. That's another game that I can understand if people are saying, it's not that big. Then we look towards the future. What is in our future? Well, we had Super Mario Galaxy 1+2 on the Switch and on the Switch 2, up in 4K on the Switch 2, new content, but those aren't technically big games, right? Because they're old games. Well, if you look forward, you have Mario Tennis Aces, you have Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, you have Fire Emblem, Fortune's Weave, you have a bunch of titles to look forward to, but none of them are big titles, are they? Well, to be honest with you, I would agree. I would agree that those are not big titles. They're not big games. The big games are 3D Mario, 3D Zelda, to get ourselves a new Animal Crossing game, a new Smash Brothers game. These franchises are some of the biggest and best Nintendo has to offer, and people are upset at Nintendo for not giving them it earlier in this console's lifespan. If you look back to 2017, those are the expectations I think a lot of people had coming into 2025. We had Super Mario Odyssey, we had Breath of the Wild to launch that system, we had a new IP in ARMS, we had Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we had tons of big games from niche franchises at points, but also from the biggest of big franchises. Mario and Zelda are as big as it gets. That is also kind of my point of today's video. There is allowed to be nuance in these conversations, and there is certainly a lot of nuance in these conversations right here. Why is it that people are so upset at the Nintendo Switch 2 and at Nintendo and at the games when there are so many of them? There are so many games on the Switch 2, and yet everyone seems to be acting as if this console, has no games. Well, one, I think it is because of those expectations. I think there was a little bit of a mismanagement in expectations. People going into the first year of a new console, it's pretty understandable to see how anyone could be saying, I want a big franchise. I want a new game from my favorite franchise, from the biggest of the big right now. And it's pretty reasonable to expect that to some extent, to say, okay, any of the big franchises, just give me anything. Well, we kind of did get that, didn't we? We got Mario Kart World. Mario Kart is a established, huge franchise. That game was overblown in its hate because of the price and because of the online debacle. That is why we are in this position. Nintendo, I think very smartly, decided to stretch out their big games, to stretch out all of their big franchises, because with the Switch, they kind of ran out of them towards the tail end of that console's life. In the past couple years, we were stuck with remakes, ports, old games, smaller games, nicher games, and people were really being true in recognizing that that console had a ton of games, sure, but not a lot of big games. And we assumed that was because the Switch 2 was going to give us those big games, those big experiences. There were even reports and rumors saying that the Switch 2 was being delayed into 2025 because they hadn't had those big games ready for the hardware yet. If these are the big games that we were waiting for, what is to come? Are we going to get any more games ever again? Is the world falling down in a big black hole? Are we all dying? No, we're not. There is nuance here. Switch and the Switch 2 are different consoles. The Switch 2 has a different vision. They're doing things differently. Mario Kart World was supposed to be the big game. And if Donkey Kong Bonanza took off, great, that's two. Then you're going to get a bunch more smaller titles from niche franchises because it's supplementing the larger ones. Now maybe if Donkey Kong had come later and Mario Kart had started off with this console, things would be a little bit different. Maybe people wouldn't be complaining as much if we didn't even know Donkey Kong had existed until that September Direct, and then in September it released like a few months later, like right now in October or November we got Donkey Kong Bonanza. Maybe people would be seeing it a little bit differently if they hadn't released those two big ones back to back. The mismanagement of expectations, and perhaps even the understandable management of expectations, led to this big stink. What is the second reason that I think Nintendo is getting a lot of hate right now, that people can't seem to find joy in this new console? It's because Nintendo has kind of been making a lot of bad decisions recently, and they have all piled up on top of each other. The pricing thing was huge. I think the console is fairly priced. $450 is a steal for this console. We are getting 4K, 60 FPS at the best for all of these games, and you can play it on the go. You can play it in handheld mode. It's different than these other consoles. And the PS5 and Xbox Series X both recently got their prices raised. Xbox raised their prices twice, and no one bought an Xbox already. These consoles are so much more expensive now compared to the Switch 2. And until Nintendo decides to upcharge it, if they do at all, I'm going to sit here and say it's the best deal in gaming. But still, I'm not going to sit here and defend $80 games. I think it should be $70. That is what market value has been for a while. And now that we are moving out of the Switch generation from $60 to $70, I think it was too much for Nintendo to try to upcharge us 10 extra bucks from what we all expected them to jump up to. If it had just been $70, I would have been to bat for Nintendo. Donkey Kong Bonanza was $70. What's the difference between Donkey Kong and Mario Kart? Well, I can't really tell you. There isn't a lot of consistency there. Switch 2 editions, that's my biggest gripe with it. It's $80. If you had not bought those games before, they are $80. $60 for the base game and $20 for the new content and graphics, I suppose. $80. It's too much. $70 is the top of the top. It should have been that hard ceiling, and yet $80 is. Smash Bros, Animal Crossing, all these big games that you guys want, that this crowd I'm talking to right now has been asking for, they're going to be $80. When you finally get those games revealed, you're going to have to shell out the big buck money for these games. And at that point, you're probably not going to be happy. There's no winning here. And also, there's a narrative going around. I've been hinting at it throughout this video. People are saying that Nintendo has changed. Every single decision that they make that's even in the gray area, even if it's like very neutral, people are taking it as a negative thing. People are taking it out of proportion. They're making it the worst thing ever because the Switch 2 has garnered so much hate. And what does hate do right now? Hate sells. Hate all over the place. If you look through YouTube, Nintendo in the Nintendo sphere, if you look up anything about the Switch 2, you will see hate. You will see endless heaps of hate. And every single one of these videos has tons of views. I mean, if I wanted to, if a bunch of people wanted to, they could hop on YouTube, talk about all these different things that are terrible about Nintendo, and really drive it home and be dramatic about it, and you'll get millions and millions of views. I just don't know what to say to that. It's negativity. It's selling. I know that people are just unhappy with the Switch 2, but this narrative has been pushed too far, and people are acting as though Nintendo has changed. They have not. They truly haven't. During the Switch generation, they had such good PR. People loved them. They had really brought everyone back into their good graces, and yet they pushed things to the limit then too. $60 games for games like Kirby Star Allies. I'm sorry if you love Kirby Star Allies. It didn't have a lot of content at launch. It wasn't worth $60 at launch. Games like Mario Tennis Aces, Battle League, people did not like these games because they were fully priced for experiences that did not match up to the full price $60 of Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. How can you charge me $60 for both games? You really can't without there being backlash. Don't even get me started on stuff like Labo. Like, Labo was literally cardboard and they sold it for over $100. And people bought it, and people complained a little bit, but not like this. I swear, if Nintendo had tried Labo this year, the company would have been burned to the ground. People would have been so angry. And yet back then, I just remember people saying, wow, this is kind of weird and cool, and oh, it's a little overpriced. In fact, it's way overpriced. They're charging so much for cardboard. Then what did people do? They moved on with their lives. People aren't moving on with their lives anymore. They're just continuing to yap about this. At some point, things become trendy. At some point, things happen enough to where they are going to continue happening until it becomes old and the new thing comes along and boom, people start chasing that cycle. Right now, I think Nintendo negativity is trendy. It is in the news. It is in this big cycle of engagement bait. People are out here really saying the most diabolical, untrue things, just really playing it up, and it's not true. And some of it, maybe it is true, and it's just very exaggerated, and people are eating it up because people love to hate on Nintendo now. That's just the thing that they're doing. That's just where we're at. So it's unfortunate in my opinion, but what is this big game problem? I don't really think it's a big game problem. Sure, we have a lack of big games coming at the end of this year and the beginning of next year, but we've already gotten 2 really big games. And I understand if you want a game every single month, okay, I would say that's unreasonable expectations, but if that's where you're at, cool. But people are acting as if there is no big game, that there hasn't been a big game, when we've gotten 2 of them, in my opinion. We've gotten 2 huge games. Coming soon, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, coming soon, Pokemon, coming soon, all these different things, Hyrule Warriors, whatever you want to go by. But those games are not small, like they're still Nintendo games. Nintendo fans seem to hate Nintendo. All of these different games, all of these different franchises are Nintendo franchises. How can you be upset that Nintendo is releasing Nintendo games on their Nintendo console? I understand, we've not gotten Animal Crossing, blah, 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 but we're going to. They're coming. They're going to be here eventually. It's just that they're not here right now. And I know this is a society in which social media has taken over and everyone is scrolling on their phones and we have 0 attention span. It's all just been shortened and shrunk down into slop. But now I just want to say big games are going to come. And if Nintendo were smart, they would continue to only give us like 2 or 3 big games a year for the rest of the console's life. If we had big games like Mario Odyssey, like Donkey Kong Bonanza, every single year, it would totally top all these other consoles. The PS5, for example, only gets like 1 game a year, if that, from their first-party developers. We've already gotten 2 huge ones, and we've got 4, 5, 6 more on the way this year alone, and the console launched in June, halfway through the year. We're getting so much content. So I would just say there is somewhat of a big game problem. There is a lack of big games because we've only gotten 2. And yet, June, July, August, September, we're now in October. This is month 5 of this console. How can you ask for more in month 5 when we've already gotten 2 massive games and we've gotten way more games coming? The bigger games are going to come eventually. Please be patient. That's what I would say. Yes, there is a little bit of a game problem. We need a little bit more. We could know about more, but they're not telling us more now because it's probably not coming till the end of next year. So why would they tell us now? So there's a mix here, right? We need to be patient, and we also need to recognize that, yeah, big games have not been coming at an obscene rate. We've not been getting them every single month. We never have. We never do. I don't know what people have been expecting. I think there's been a mismanagement of expectations. There's a lot going on here that plays into this big, messy pie that is burnt. It's a burnt pie and no one wants a slice anymore. And people are digging into it and acting like it's the best thing ever when clearly it's burnt. But people are also saying that it is way more than burnt. It's charcoal. You can't even see the pie anymore when clearly it's in a pie pan. There's a lot going on here that I think is just making things complicated. And so that's what I would say. It's nuanced. So thank you for making it to the end of this video. I appreciate your time. This was probably a long, ranty type video, but I just had to get out here and say all of this stuff because it's a lot of stuff and there's a lot going on. But Nintendo is going to be fine and you are going to be fine. And if you don't like these things, don't buy them. You don't need to spread hate. Just don't do it. It's not that hard. Make sure you let me know all of your thoughts and more down in the comments below. Click that like button and that subscribe button to join the channel. The notification bell to make sure you know exactly when my videos release. And if you're on mobile, I don't know if it's on desktop, apparently not, click that hype button after the like button. It helps this channel immensely. Consider joining my membership program, just a couple bucks a month, to get early access to all my videos and a bunch of other cool perks. Make sure you click on the left side of your screen to see my new video on Switch 2 Editions, all of my thoughts in that, and click on the right side of your screen to see my video on Donkey Kong Bonanza, the review of that game. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Make sure you have yourself a phenomenal day. This has been Ray's Nintendo Talk. I have been Ray, and I will see you all in the next video.